Welcome back. You're watching Capital Showdown, and we want to focus now on the community-wise breakup you've seen. We'll now look at the locality-wise breakup of Delhi to give our viewers a sense of where the Aam Aadmi Party is gaining and where the BJP is losing. Before that, Dhananjay, you want to just tell our viewers how these localities are classified, because a very contentious data point that we are putting out. Just hold that for a moment. Dhananjay, just explain how these are divided into elite, middle class, lower middle class and working class localities. Dhananjay first.
Well, what we did was to take the circle rates of property taxes. Now, these circle rates go from A to H. A, B, C is what we have classified as elite, and the lowest sections are E, F, G. And then we have classified the middle section.
So essentially, this is just a broad stroke classification. It doesn't mean that every person that you see here is indeed an elite or every person is in the lower middle class. What it means is that this is the kind of locality that is. So by and large, most of the people would be from that kind of an income classification. I just wanted to make that caveat before I put these numbers out. Here, amongst the working class localities of Delhi, the Aam Aadmi Party has a 10% gap with the BJP. A 10% gap is very significant. Amongst the low middle class communities of Delhi, the Aam Aadmi Party has a 9% gap. A 9% gap over the BJP. Amongst the middle class communities, now you would usually imagine, and the popular narrative has been, that the middle class is angry with Arvind Kejriwal, that the middle class doesn't like his anarchic style, they don't like his behavior, they don't like his dharnas, they would never forgive him. Well, the data seems to indicate that's not true, because the Aam Aadmi Party has got 42% of the middle class vote, the BJP's got just 37%. The only kind of localities where the BJP leads over the Aam Aadmi Party is in the elite communities, where you've got 41% for the BJP, 36% for the Aam Aadmi Party. Manisha Priyam, if I were in the BJP, I'd be very concerned by looking at those numbers, essentially suggesting that all the poor people of Delhi, by and large, seem to have preferred in those localities the Aam Aadmi Party has won and the BJP has lost. The BJP today in Delhi perceived through this data as a rich man's party.
Yeah, and if you just club the last two categories, the lower middle class and the working class, because there's one thing that we are not still taking into consideration is the year of migration. A lot of them, I assume, are going to be migrants. A lot of the lower middle class is going to share the spaces where the working class lives, just somewhere in and around. So overwhelmingly, in the bottom two quintiles or bottom two categories, you can see 43%, absolutely. And I would really stick my neck out here and congratulate you for having used these categories, because for urban India, for Delhi per se, do you know, we do not have a poverty survey. Delhi is one of those few unfortunate places in the country where we don't know who the city's poor are. So indeed, this is the only proxy we have of identifying who the poor in the city are. So asymmetrically, if you see, the lowermost rungs, inequality really playing a huge role in the city's politics.
Even amongst the middle class, now usually everyone came to the conclusion that the middle class is concerned about Kejriwal. They think he's a dharnawala leader, they think he'll be highly chaotic in his functioning. The middle class has given him a 5% gap over the BJP.
Yeah.
In fact, Rahul, you're quite right. And unlike Manisha, I would club the bottom three. And you can see the working class, lower middle class, middle class. In all three categories, the difference is about 15 to 16%, 15 to 17%. And what you showed before, that showed that identity politics in terms of caste, religion, ethnicity is getting blurred. And that's welcome change. And now politics is getting more and more.
No, but that's welcome change from your perspective. But GVL Narasimha Rao, from the Bharatiya Janata Party's perspective, you've got a very difficult situation where the party of a chaiwala is perceived as the party of the rich, and a party of the IRS officer is perceived as the party of the poor.
I think that's a little bit of an overstatement.
Well, that's what the data is saying.
I think 5% gap in support across different classes does not really.
It's not a 5% gap, GVL. I know you're very good with numbers. So don't say that you haven't understood this. Amongst the working class and lower middle class, it's a 10%, 9% gap, it's not 5%.
No, look at our support among elite, 41%, and the support among working class is 35%. What is the gap between 35 and 41?
No, compare it with your opponent, GVL.
So
compare it with your opponent.
What is important, Rahul, is I think I stick by my point. We will again speak on 10th of February. I'm going to be with you between 9 and 1 for sure. We will discuss it because I have a feeling, and I think I'll be borne out by the real results on February 10th. That there is some kind of an underassessment for BJP, systematic underassessment, not because of anybody's fault, not because anybody has done it deliberately, but because of the manner in which the supporters of one party are more vocal compared to others.
Okay, Rahul Mehra, very quickly, sampling that is done. Do you believe that the Prime Minister wearing those fancy suits, hobnobbing with big industrialists, went against him? And Kejriwal with his cough and his muffler just came across as more believable for the working class and the lower middle classes of Delhi?
Well, one can't be so simplistic in one's analysis, but all I would say is that yes, you know, what we actually gauged over the last few months at the grassroots level while engaging with people and getting the connect is what is reflected in your analysis, which is that across caste, across religion, across economic strata, across various segments, people have embraced the Aam Aadmi Party. And therefore it's a welcome change, it's a welcome narrative in the state politics, and hopefully this will replicate at the national level.
It's interesting that Rahul Mehra tonight
the other aspect, just one more,
very quickly.
One more, just allow me. Also, when you try and pitch it towards the chai wala versus the IRS, you know, that kind of analysis, I think what Mr. Modi has done over the last 9 months, as in the policy for reforming the land bill, you know, Adani getting 6,000 crores of bank loan in a project which was rejected by 5 international banks, and such discourse over the last 9 months. And then the people of Delhi, you know, battling their day-to-day lives.
All kinds of reasons will get attributed to it. But at the end of it, was it just about Bijli, Pani and a corruption-free Delhi? Is that essentially what swung it? I have over here an old tweet from Arvind Kejriwal where he says, polls are completely fuzzy, they're all sold out to Modi, people have sold their soul. I wonder if he's watching all these exit polls, what he makes of that completely unwarranted outburst. Tonight, of course, the BJP feeling exactly the same. Part of this broadcast, I have one final question for our guests, and I'll start with you, Dr. Lahiri, on the future of Indian politics if the Aam Aadmi Party were to win, and what this would mean for AAP. Will we see them try and now head into the Bihar elections?
I will be surprised if AAP can break into All India politics so easily, because there are entrenched parties there. And what I'm worried about is this individual-centric Aam Aadmi Party. What it reminds me is C. Rajagopalachari and Swatantra Party. Formed in 1959, it got 7%, 8% votes in 1962 and 1967. 1971, its vote percentage came down below 4, and after that it just disappeared because Chakravarti Rajagopalachari died. Now, an individual-centric party, forming a party is a great challenge. So we have to wait and see how Aam Aadmi Party shapes itself and how it spreads in the other parts of the country.
Manisha Priyam, we've seen a very well-behaved Kejriwal during the campaign. The theatrics have been absent. Is that the way he'll govern, with more focus and determination, or is it just a matter of days before he's at Dharna outside the Prime Minister's office?
If the memories of any of his 49 days in power serves me right, he's somebody who will need to be, you know, provided the necessary criticism, because not a lot of what he was doing, you know, while in power was something that got down very well.
No, but the criticism made no difference to what he did.
No, of course, he's had to go down and say sorry for those days.
But that's later. He never realized it then.
Yeah, he never realized it then.
Therefore, a certain sense of hubris and arrogance crept into him.
Now that he's seen that the media does indeed say, stick its neck out and say, even against adversities, that yes, this is a party that's indeed winning for certain reasons, for the agenda that it has. I would just pray and hope that he listens to the criticisms that comes to him from a rather independent and democratic media. But I would just reiterate the point that Dr. Lahiri said, that the person-centric way of leading forward a party, I think that's something that the Aam Aadmi Party should begin to relook and renegotiate that agenda, because that's the agenda of reform in many of the Indian states, not just the Aam Aadmi Party.
He's a great one when it comes to conspiracy theories. Arvind Kejriwal has just tweeted, deployed volunteers to keep round-the-clock vigil on the premises housing EVMs. Right. He's not believing any of this. He says, my men will be there. I'll try and ensure that nobody gets in. Is there a need to do any of this, or should he just sit back and enjoy himself now?
Well, I think it's time to trust not only we pollsters but also the Election Commission.
So he's been crying conspiracy against the police. He's been cribbing about the EC, and that's just the way he's fought this campaign. And in some senses, it's worked for him. People thought of him as the David versus the Goliath, and make no mistake, this election has been an entire army versus one man. And if at the end of it, Dhananjay and all the other pollsters come out to be true, then
should be praying for the
redefine the way we see elections. Because for the modified BJP to have to face defeat at the hands of Kejriwal would be a very, very significant political development. Manisha, Priyam, you've been outstanding. Thanks also, Dhananjay. I see you've got other pollsters to change their mind, even those who were saying the BJP is in majority. And it's always a pleasure having you, Dr. Lahiri, with us on this broadcast.